Welcome back to the Leadership Lab. Before we get into it, pause this video right now and go grab a pen and paper. You're going to want to take notes, reflect, and actually engage with what is going on here. This is not a passive watching experience. This is a lab. If there's someone else who would benefit from this, bring them in, make it a group experience. But if you're by yourself, that's perfectly fine. Just lock in with me. This is part 3 of our series on cognitive distortions. Welcome to the Leadership Lab, presented by When the Mind Clicks. So, in our first couple of videos, we talked about awareness, we talked about understanding, and today we are discussing solutions, how to combat, minimize, and reframe cognitive distortions. All right, so awareness tells us what's happening. Understanding tells us why. Now let's talk about what we actually do about it, because awareness without action is just information. We love information, but we also love a good solution, right? All right, so let's jump in with a 4-step process. This is how you start taking your power back. Step 1, you notice the thought. When the thought comes up, I'm not enough, this is overwhelming, I'm a failure, all those distorted thinking patterns based on who you believe you are, what people said you were, what you think about other people, what you think about the world, catch it. Call it out immediately and internally. There it is, I see you. Step 2, name the pattern. Give it a label. Which cognitive distortion is it? That's catastrophizing. That's mind reading. That's personalization. Naming it activates your prefrontal cortex, your thinking brain, the brain's administrative team, okay? And it begins to interrupt the automatic response that we are so used to. Step 3, challenge it. Ask yourself, is this actually true or is this just familiar? What's the evidence for this? What's the evidence against it? Am I reacting to what's actually happening or to what I'm predicting or assuming about myself, about them, about the world, about the situation? What would I tell a friend who was thinking this? And step 4, replace it with something more accurate. Not just think positive, right? But think accurately, realistic, not dismissive, compassionate, not bypassing, okay? So, quick reminder before we jump in. Today, we are going to be going over tips and real-world examples for the cognitive distortions that we discussed in video 1, titled, You Can't Lead Clearly with Distorted Thinking. The tips in this video are to help you to challenge, combat, and reframe these thought patterns. Now, I'm only doing one example from each of the 16 distortions that we covered in the first video, but there are multiple ways that each of these distortions can show up in everyday life. So if you want to access the full worksheet packet, including 3 to 4 additional tips, reframes, and real-life examples for each distortion we're going to cover today, click the link in the description and head over to our website so you can grab the packet, follow along with the series, and work through it on your own time. All right, let's dive in. So, like I said, we're not going to go too hard on describing all of the distortions. That's what video 1 was for, awareness. We are focusing on tips, okay? So I will briefly cover the distortion and then give you guys a tip for each. Number 1, all or nothing thinking. All right, you guys remember this one? All or nothing thinking is when you see situations as only a total success or a total failure, right? There's no middle ground. This was a failure or it was perfect, okay? So tip number 1, try to find the gray area. Ask yourself, what's partially true here, okay? You can use a scale of 1 to 10 instead of pass or fail. Instead of, oh, I don't feel like I did well and I got bad feedback, I failed, this was a catastrophe. Don't do pass or fail vibes. Give yourself a scale of 1 to 10. Okay, I think I'm going to rank myself a 6 out of 10 on that one, right? Instead of saying I bombed that, rate it honestly. That was a 6 out of 10. The delivery was a bit shaky. The content was solid. And I fielded, every question really well. But I didn't feel good about it. 6 out of 10. That is so much better than all or nothing thinking. Pass, fail, good, bad, right? You can also catch and challenge absolute words like always, never, everything, nothing. catch those, okay? And also keep a log of your partial wins so that you can train yourself to see the nuance of the situation, right? So for example, after a rough meeting, I didn't speak up as much as I wanted, but I did ask the clarifying question that unblocked the whole team, right? That actually helped the whole team when I asked that question. That mattered. Okay, over time, the log will show you your story is more complex than just good or bad, pass or fail. Next, we're going to talk about overgeneralization. So this is when you draw this sweeping, broad conclusion from one or two, maybe a few events. This always happens to me. All men are terrible. Therapy is horrible, right? Because you had a couple of bad therapists or something, okay? So to combat this cognitive distortion of overgeneralization, ask yourself, is this a genuine pattern or just one bad instance, two bad instances? Okay? If you've only been to therapy once or twice and you say therapy sucks and therapy's terrible, that's not really a genuine pattern. That was two attempts that didn't go well, right? You got ghosted on a date, right? And you think nobody ever likes me. You ask yourself, is that actually true across every single person I've ever connected with, right? A truthful answer usually says no, okay? You can also work to overcome overgeneralization by countering the pattern with specific exceptions from memory. Again, work on replacing words like always, never with sometimes or this time or the past couple times or something like that, right? Nothing is as black and white like that, okay? Not all dogs are bad because you got bit by a dog. And keep a weekly success journal, right? Just to show yourself that outcomes really do vary over time, okay? Next up, we have mental filter, okay? So mental filter is when you fixate on negative details, like a single negative detail without even acknowledging all the positives. You filtered out every single positive thing that went right. Okay, so how do we battle that? How do we challenge that? So number one, deliberately list 3 positives before you let yourself even start to address the negatives. Okay, my outfit looked good. I felt pretty confident. And someone after asked me, hey, have you been studying this for a while? You seemed like you know what you're talking about. All right. Now I can talk about how I skipped over a line on stage, how I felt really nervous once I finally got out there, how I forgot my last line and had to actually improvise. Before that, see deliberately what actually went okay or well, right? Let's see. So what you can also do with mental filtering is build a nightly highlight reel. Journaling, right? Make a habit of journaling. A tough day at work had one painful moment, but also your lunch was great. A stranger complimented your jacket and you made your colleague laugh. Write those down too, okay? Sometimes you have to pause and ask, what am I filtering out right now? Okay, and you might even need a 2-column worksheet. But for more examples, go get that download we talked about, okay? Next distortion is disqualifying the positive. So this is when you dismiss good things as a fluke or luck or coincidence or exceptions so that that negative thinking that we were just talking about stays intact, right? Your boss says that report was excellent. Write down that your boss said it was excellent on May 14th, okay? Fully stop. Don't add the fact that she says that to everyone or that she's probably just being nice. Don't do that to yourself. Don't disqualify the positive. She said what she said, okay? So think about those sort of things. Ask yourself, what would I actually need to see or believe that this is real? Okay? If you keep saying your promotion was just luck, ask what would need to happen for me to accept that this was earned? Then look at whether that evidence was already met, right? Did that evidence already meet the bar? Next, we're going to talk about mind reading. Okay, so mind reading is assuming that you know what someone is thinking, usually something negative and without evidence. All right, so some tips to go against mind reading is ask directly. Instead of assuming, say, hey, are you okay? That goes a long way, right? Your partner's been quiet all evening. You're convinced they're angry at you. Instead of stewing in it for hours, ask, hey, you seem a bit off. Is everything okay? 9 times out of 10, it's about something else entirely, or they're willing to tell you what's going on, or say they need some space or some time, or whatever they communicate. That will help you to stop mind reading. Okay? That can be so exhausting for you. Another thing you can do when it comes to mind reading, my favorite thing to do when I catch myself mind reading is to list 3, maybe 5 other possible explanations before landing on the negative one. If you have time to think of that one negative thing, oh, they're staring at me, they must hate me, then think of a few more then. Oh, they might not have their glasses on. Oh, they might be looking directly at me, but they're lost in thought. Have you ever been staring at something so long you don't even realize that you're actually staring at someone because you're like so zoned out? You have no clue. They could be staring at your beauty, right? A friend left your message on read before concluding that they're mad at me. That can be a thought, sure. They're mad at me, but now 3 more. They're swamped at work. They saw it and they meant to reply later. Their phone notification glitched. All 3 are still likely to happen, and they can really help you avoid this silent grudge of you stewing in this mind reading cognitive distortion. Okay? Let's see. Okay, we're going to pause for a second. Do you listen to Paramore? I'm screaming. Yes, I love Paramore, actually. I just saw that, but I love Paramore. Okay. So next up is fortune telling. This is when you're predicting what's going to happen. A lot of times you're predicting a bad outcome, right? And you treat that prediction as a guaranteed fact. We have to cut that out, okay? What I want you to do is try to write down the prediction before the event and then check it after the event. But be honest when you check the prediction after the event, because sometimes you fulfill the prophecy. So what do I mean by that? Oh, I'm going to fail this test, right? Then you don't study because you think studying is going to be pointless because you're going to fail. You need to write that down too. My prediction was I'm going to fail this test. And then at the end, let's say you failed it. Write down, I did fail it. Write down what happened. I didn't study. I didn't believe I was going to pass, so I didn't put in the effort. Be honest, okay? But also, there's times where I'm going to go ask somebody to have lunch with me. Write the prediction down if it really gets to you. Okay, they're going to reject me and they're going to tell me, why would I ever hang out with you? Right? Because we spiral the worst case scenario. Write down what you really think, because you think this person's about to slam the door in your face and be like, why would I ever go to lunch with you? Write down your prediction, your fortune, and then after the situation, write down, oh, we're going to lunch. It didn't turn out as bad as I thought. Oh, they said they can't, but they asked if we could reschedule for a different time. Write it down, okay? More often than not, the reality is far less dramatic, okay? For more examples on fortune telling, get that worksheet. Next is catastrophizing, okay? Turning small problems into absolute worst case disastrous scenarios, okay? Ask yourself, what is the absolute worst case that could happen? And then ask yourself, what is actually likely to happen? Answer both of those questions, okay? You sent an email with a typo to a client. Worst case scenario, they lose all faith in you and they cancel the contract. What's more likely to happen? They didn't notice, or they noticed and genuinely didn't care. Send a quick correction and move on, okay? But if you catastrophize, write down both. What do you think genuinely? And don't filter your thoughts. Do you think that typo is going to cause them to lose faith in you and cancel the contract? Write it down. And then I need you to try to regulate and think, okay, what is more likely to happen? And then I need you to just wait for reality to play out, okay? You can also use the will this matter in 5 years check-in. You can rate the impact on a scale of 1 to 10 before reacting. You can take some slow breaths. There's all kinds of things you can do when you start catastrophizing. Next up is minimization, okay? Minimization is when you start shrinking your own strengths, your own wins, or the importance of positive things or significant moments, okay? So I want you to ask yourself, would I say this to a friend who achieved the same thing? Right? You ran your first 5K and immediately said, well, it's really not that big of a deal. Lots of people do it. Would you say that to a friend if they were like, oh my gosh, I just ran my first 5K? No, you'd say, oh, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Or you'd say, oh, I love that you got into that. You wouldn't talk to them the way you talk to yourself. I can almost guarantee that. And if you do, that's a whole nother topic. You're going to have to find one of my other videos to discuss that. But for more examples on minimization and more tips on minimization, get the worksheet. Next, we have emotional reasoning. Okay, I feel it, therefore it must be true. Letting your feelings act as evidence. Okay, so I need you to practice separating your feelings from the facts. And if you need to write it down on 2 columns, that's fine. On the left column, I feel like I'm terrible at my job. On the right column, I got a good review last quarter. My team comes to me for advice. I've solved 3 major problems this month. The right column is your reality. Okay? So your emotional reasoning, that can really get in the way, especially if you have unresolved wounds. So for example, if you grew up in a highly critical, tense, aggressive environment and people were really assertive and aggressive and judgmental and always telling you about yourself and correcting you and being mean to you, then when you grow up and you get a job and your boss has an assertive tone and gives you feedback, you are going to feel anxious and fear, maybe even anger. Your emotions are going to convince you that he is mean, he is attacking me, right? So that's why we got to work on those old wounds so that we don't start leaking out everywhere else. So ask yourself questions like, what's the evidence outside of how I feel? How you feel is not enough evidence for something to be true. Okay? Name the emotion clearly, but don't let it make your decisions, okay? And sometimes just do a 1 to 10 rating again. Get a little thermometer check. Gauge the emotional intensity separately from the actual situation, okay? Next up, we have should statements. These are rigid rules. I should have, you should have, he must do, I must have, right? These generate a level of guilt and shame and high expectations when they're not met, okay? So replace should with I'd like to, or it would help if, right? I should be further along in my career by now. I'd like to progress faster. So what's the concrete thing I could do this month? What's something I could actually do this month to help me to progress faster? Because that's what I want. This helps to not create shame and it creates an actual plan, right? It doesn't put this high expectation. It gives you a pathway, all right? When you do should statements and must statements, ask yourself, who made this rule? And is it actually fair? Find the value underneath the should and honor it in a flexible way, okay? Next up is labeling. Labeling is when you attach a permanent, mostly negative, label to yourself or others or a thing based on a mistake or one of their behaviors or one thing they did or something like that, right? So what I want you to practice doing is separate the action from the identity. I did this, right? Instead of I am this, right? You forgot to reply to an email for a week. Instead of saying, I am such a flake, maybe you can say, I dropped the ball on that email. One is that thing you did, right? The other was you trying to make it seem like this is your identity. I am a flake. I am this thing, right? It's not a permanent character trait, especially when you're willing to adjust or you caught it and you actually feel bad for the mistake you did, right? So don't put this permanent character trait and start baking it into who you are, okay? Learn from it, do better. You probably don't like the feeling that came with it. Just tell yourself like, oh my gosh, I missed the email. This feels horrible. I don't like that feeling. I dropped the ball. That's fine. You can be real with yourself, right? Next up is personalization, okay? This is blaming yourself for events outside of your control or just taking responsibility for others' feelings, emotions, or actions. Let's say I raise my hand in class and I ask a question. And I think the question is so stupid. So I'm embarrassed and I put my hand down. And then a kid gets up and walks to the restroom and leaves the class. Personalization will have me feel like he left because of me. That's personalization. We have to be mindful when we do that, right? Let's say your team missed a project deadline and you're convinced that it's your fault. What I want you to do is to try to map out all the real causes of the event. Most of them won't be you, right? Ask what percentage of this is actually mine to own. Learn the difference between having influence and having control. There are times where we might influence a situation, but we don't control people to do anything, okay? Next up is jumping to conclusions. All right, so this is making negative interpretations without any supporting facts. Okay, if this happens, I want you to practice to pause, gather the facts before reaching a conclusion. I want you to generate 3 alternative interpretations for every negative assumption. Ask questions rather than trying to fill in the blanks yourself. So instead of spending 3 days assuming that a friend is upset with you because they've been quiet, just text and say, hey, haven't heard from you. Is everything okay? Send that one text. The answer takes 5 seconds, right? And it ends the spiral, okay? Next up is blaming, okay? Blaming is when you hold external circumstances or others entirely responsible for your problems and your feelings. Okay, so what I want you to work on if you do this is practice I statements so that you can own your part, right? Even when it's uncomfortable. Okay, you made me late by taking too long. Why don't you use an I statement? I didn't leave enough buffer time in case things ran over. Both things can be true, but you can only act on your part. So that's the useful one to look at and the one that causes less resentment, but you can still vocalize, right? Another thing you can do if you do the blaming thing is to ask, what's one small thing that I could have done differently? Okay? Practice the distinction between someone can cause a problem and you can still have had a role in it, right? Journal, what's in my circle of control right now? Sometimes it was just completely out of your control. Right? But instead of saying traffic made me late, that's outside of your control, the traffic, right? Inside of your control is, dang, the traffic made me late. I hate being late. I don't like how that made me feel. Next time I'm going to leave a little earlier and I'm going to use the navigation app. Letting someone know when you're running behind. Your focus goes where it can actually do something so that you don't beat yourself up or turn into this blaming machine, okay? The next cognitive distortion, then we have one more after this, is always being right. Constantly needing to prove your opinions are correct. Being wrong feels threatening, okay? So practice saying, I might be wrong about this, out loud, regularly, okay? And if you don't like the word wrong, why don't you take some pride in being able to accumulate information? Hey, I like gaining new information. That's all it is. You're not always wrong, but it is okay to get new information and be flexible with your thinking and adjust appropriately. Period. Reframe being corrected as receiving new information, not losing status or being threatened. Okay? Ask what matters more right now, being right or the relationship. Okay? Celebrate updating your beliefs as intellectual strength, not a weakness. And the last one that has some tips that I'm going to share in this video is heaven's fallacy. So that's expecting that your sacrifice will automatically pay off, turning bitter when the reward doesn't actually come. Okay? So instead of doing that, try to practice doing things for intrinsic reasoning, okay? Not for the expectation of a return. All right, you stayed late and you helped a colleague finish a project, and then you felt resentful that they didn't publicly thank you. So I want you to ask, did I help because I genuinely wanted to or because I expected something? Real generosity doesn't come with a receipt, right? Although the thank you would be nice. I guess that wasn't the best example, but imagine you think you're going to get promoted after helping out or something like that. It's okay to want to do something to increase the likelihood of you getting a promotion or being noticed or recognized and things like that. But do it for intrinsic reasons and don't allow your emotions to be heavily swayed when your expectation isn't met, because your sacrifice doesn't necessarily guarantee an automatic payout. It could benefit, sure, but don't let that control your emotions. Check your expectations before making the sacrifice, okay? So, speed round. Let's do some quick reframing examples, okay, by the distortion types. We're not going to go through all 16 again, but okay, cognitive distortion number 1, catastrophizing, automatic thought. This is going to ruin everything. An accurate reframe. This is hard, but I've handled it before. Cognitive distortion, labeling, the automatic thought, I'm a failure. An accurate reframe would be, I failed at this one thing. That's not my identity. I don't like how it made me feel. What can I do so that I don't fail again? That's okay to think. Next up, mind reading, the automatic thought, they're judging me. The reframe, I don't actually know what they're thinking, but I can choose to remain calm or I can go ask. Next up, all or nothing, the automatic thought, I completely blew it. The reframe, I got some of it right and that counts, but the stuff that I messed up, honestly, I feel really uncomfortable about. Next, cognitive distortion, should statements. The automatic thought, I should have it together by now. A good reframe is, I'm learning and growth takes time. And the last one we'll go over is fortune telling, telling yourself this won't work. I just know it won't work. Let's reframe that and say, I don't know the outcome yet, but let me try. All right. So I'm not going to cover every reframe, but I just wanted to pick the ones that connected and might have been supportive to share with the group. So take the distortion you've been tracking today. All right. This is a little activity. Take one distortion you've been tracking today. Write out your automatic thought and then try to write an accurate reframe. Not think happy thoughts, an honest, grounded, compassionate reframe. All right, and share it in the comments if you're willing to. All right, this is the work. But before next episode, here's what I want you to do. I want you to do a distortion log for 7 days. Each day this week, when you notice a strong emotional reaction, pause. That's number 1. Number 2, ask yourself, what thought just happened before this feeling? Then I need you to write it down. Then I need you to identify which distortion it might be. Lastly, write an accurate reframe. You're not trying to eliminate distorted thoughts. You're training your brain to notice them faster and respond to them differently. That's how the rewire happens, okay? Everyone experiences cognitive distortions, but they come in at different levels of intensity and frequency for everyone, okay? So don't shame yourself. Let's just try to get that frequency down, so the amount that it happens, and the intensity down, how intense it happens and shows up and derails you, okay? So before we close, I want to plant a seed for where we are going next, because this matters, all right? When cognitive distortions take over, they often activate the amygdala, your brain's threat system. Think of your amygdala as a smoke detector. It doesn't know the difference between an actual fire and me dancing and curling my hair in the bathroom. We have to teach it the difference, so we aren't in constant survival mode. Cognitive distortions love to poke at and activate the amygdala. It likes to battle flexible thinking, and it takes a toll on your relationships with yourself and with others. Your thoughts shape your perception shapes your behavior, and your behavior shapes your impact, okay? I'm talking to you guys, all the leaders out there, I'm talking to y'all. The good news is, because of neuroplasticity, your brain is capable of change. Your amygdala may react automatically, but your prefrontal cortex gives you the ability to pause, reflect, and choose differently. You're not lying to yourself. You're recalibrating your perception. When your system is activated, your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for all that decision-making, focus, self-control, it goes offline. So it's not just about thinking differently, it's about whether your brain is even in a state where it can function effectively. In the next episode of the Leadership Lab, we are diving into executive functioning, the mental skills that influence that decision making, follow through, emotional regulation, communication, and productivity. So if you're ready to recognize and improve your impact, subscribe and share this with someone who's ready to grow. Because when the mind clicks, everything starts to shift. See you next week.